I want to be clear about something before I tell you any of this. I am not a special man. I am 53 years old. I have a bad left knee that predicts rain better than the Vel'Dara weather sensors. I have a thermos I have carried for 11 years that leaks from the left side of the seal, so I always hold it tilted. I came to the Vel'Dara Plateau excavation site because the maintenance contractor posted an opening for a site laborer. Sweep, haul, clear stone dust from the sensor arrays, keep the walkways passable, and the pay was 30% better than what I was making at the refinery outside Narrated City. That is the whole of my qualification. 30%. The scholars had been on the plateau for 6 years before I arrived. The sundial, that is what they called it, though no one was certain it had anything to do with measuring time, had been on the plateau for considerably longer. The best dating they had put it at 11,200 years, give or take a century. It was made of a stone no spectrometer on the site had successfully classified. It stood 4 meters tall, roughly circular in cross-section, and was covered from base to crown in a continuous carved script that spiraled upward in diminishing rings, so tight at the top that the characters were the width of a fingernail. No one could read the script. The Compact's foremost linguistic analysts had spent 8 months on a full transcription and returned a collective shrug. The Hegemony had sent their own team 6 months after that and done no better. The Vel'Dara Free Assembly had brought in a xenoarchaeological team from the university at Kalmar, a group of 9 scholars who between them held 41 advanced degrees in pre-collapse civilizations, and they had produced a monograph 1,700 pages long that concluded the script was a language, was internally consistent, and was entirely beyond current decipherment. The other thing about the sundial, the thing that had made it famous before anyone could read a word of it, was what it did to hands. Not all hands. Not randomly. Only the hands of people who approached it with what the scholars had taken to calling, in their careful academic language, directed intent. The first recovery team that had excavated it had lost their expedition leader when he gripped the base to steady a scanner. He had gone to his knees with a sound like something tearing inside him and spent 3 weeks in the medical station before he could walk. A Hegemony commander had come up the plateau personally, on a formal visit, and reached out to lay his palm flat against the carved surface in what he described afterward as a gesture of reverence. He was airlifted out inside the hour, his hand swollen to twice its size and every small bone in it reclassified. A delegate from the Compact Council had touched it with one gloved finger, very deliberately, very slowly, as part of what she described as a symbolic act of claim, and she had not touched anything on her own for 6 months after. The sundial was not hostile in any mechanical sense. No one had detected an energy discharge. No field, no pulse, no beam. It simply responded. Whatever it responded to, it responded with disproportionate force to anyone who came to it with authority, with greed, with the particular energy of a person who has decided that a thing belongs to them. I arrived on a Tuesday. I was given a bunk in the workers' block, a laminated site map, a set of cleaning equipment, and a brief orientation from a woman named Specialist Orvain who had the look of someone who had been explaining things to Laboris for years and had made her peace with it. She showed me the sensor arrays along the north approach, the drainage channels that blocked with red dust every 4 days, and the gallery observation corridor on the east face of the excavation, a raised walkway behind reinforced glass where visiting scholars and dignitaries watched the site below. The sundial's exclusion perimeter was a circle of yellow markers 6 meters out from the base. I was told to sweep inside the perimeter. The dust accumulated against the stone and could compromise the sensor contacts, but not to touch the stone itself. This was said to me with the particular emphasis of someone who has said it many times and is tired of saying it, and I nodded and said I understood. That was my job for 4 months. Sweep, haul, clear the drainage. I did it well. I am good at maintenance work. There is a satisfaction in it that I do not think people who have not done it understand. The site is a little more functional at the end of your shift than it was at the start, and that is a real and complete thing, with no ambiguity in it. I swept around the sundial 3 mornings a week. I learned its geography the way you learn anything you work around consistently, not by studying it but by moving near it until your body holds the shape of it. I knew where the base was widest, where the carved script ran thinnest, where there was a vertical crack in the stone at about knee height on the west face that was natural and very old and had been documented and photographed and argued about extensively. I knew the particular quality of silence around it, which was not the silence of emptiness but the silence of something that is not currently speaking. In my 3rd month, Specialist Orvain mentioned, in passing, that a xenobiological team had tentatively concluded the sundial might be, in some sense that was beyond their confidence threshold, responsive. Not alive in any biological sense, but not inert in the way stone is inert. Something in between, in a category that did not have a clean name yet. I nodded and swept the dust into my collector and did not say anything, because it was not my place to say anything about it, and also because I had suspected something like this since the second week. You spend enough time near something and you get a feel for it. I cannot explain this more precisely. The sundial had a feel to it the way an old machine has a feel, not warmth, exactly, but a quality of not being entirely passive. The morning it happened was unremarkable in every particular. I had come up early because the drainage channels on the north face had blocked overnight and I wanted to clear them before the scholars arrived for the day. The sun was barely over the ridge. The gallery was empty. The sundial stood in its circle of yellow markers, the carved script catching the early light at an angle that made the characters seem deeper than they were. I was sweeping along the base, working counterclockwise the way I always did, when my knee gave, the bad one, the left one, and I stumbled, and the long handle of my broom swung wide, and the broom head caught the edge of one of the yellow perimeter markers and knocked it 2 feet sideways. I caught myself on the sundial. My left hand, palm flat, against the carved stone on the west face. Right at the natural crack. Purely reflex. The kind of thing your body does before your mind has registered that there was anything to do. The stone was cool. That was the first thing. Not cold, not the cold of inert rock, but the cool of something that regulates itself. Like a living thing at rest. I let go and straightened and checked my knee and looked at my hand and it was fine. No swelling. No pain. The stone was still behind me, and the script carved into it had not changed, and the morning was still quiet. I thought, all right. That is lucky. And I picked up the yellow marker and put it back where it belonged and went back to sweeping. I had moved perhaps 4 meters farther along the base when I heard it. I say heard, but that is not quite the word. The sound, if it was a sound, did not travel through the air in the ordinary way. It arrived, as if it had been waiting just behind the inside surface of the world and had now stepped through. It was low, resonant. It carried the quality of something that has not spoken in a very long time and is choosing its words with care. I turned around. The sundial was glowing. Not brightly. Not in the theatrical way you see in entertainments, where a thing glows and the glow fills the room and everything in it. This was a pale illumination tracing the carved script from the base upward, following the spiral of characters in sequence, slowly, the way you might read if you were reading something important. The light was a soft bluish white, like early morning on an ocean. Where it passed over the natural crack on the west face, it slowed. I am certain it slowed, and then continued upward. The scholars arrived at approximately that moment. I heard the gallery door open above me and the sound of voices stopping, and then a different kind of silence that was not ordinary silence but the silence of people who have stopped in the middle of a sentence because they have seen something. I was standing 4 meters from the sundial, broom in my left hand, watching the script illuminate 1 ring at a time, slowly ascending, while behind the observation glass perhaps 11 scholars and 2 side administrators pressed forward and said nothing. The light reached the top. The finest characters, fingernail width, in the uppermost ring. They lit last, and held. Then the sundial spoke. I felt it before I heard it. It came up through the ground under my boots and through the air simultaneously, and it settled in the middle of my chest with the weight of something very old and very decided. The script did not move. The glow did not change. But the words came, in a language that should have been unknown to me, the same script no one could decipher, and I understood them completely, without translation, in the way you understand something you have always known and only just been asked to recall. Still here, then. Good. That was all. 4 words. The light held for another moment, steady and even, and then, not fading, exactly, but concluding, it went out in the same sequence it had arrived, descending the spiral back to the base and going dark. The sundial was stone again. The morning was quiet again. The red dust had already begun to settle back against the base. I stood there with my broom. From the gallery above, someone, specialist or vain, I found out later, said, very quietly, "Don't move him." I was not planning to move. My knee hurt. I was holding my broom. I was thinking about the crack on the west face, and how the light had paused at it, and what that might mean, and whether it had anything to do with the fact that my hand had landed there. I was thinking about 11,000 years. I was thinking about all the hands, the commander's hand, the delegate's finger, the expedition leader's grip, and about my own hand, which had caught the stone reflexively, without intention, in the way you catch something that is falling, not because you have decided to catch it, but because your body is the kind of body that catches things. I don't think it was about me, particularly. I have thought about this for a long time now, in the years since, and that is what I keep coming back to. I do not think the sundial was waiting for me by name. I think it was waiting for a particular quality that is very common in maintenance workers and very rare in dignitaries, which is the quality of touching something in order to keep it from harm rather than in order to take something from it. The scholars disagree with this interpretation. They have produced papers. Several of them believe I carry a bloodline. Several others believe I carry a genetic sequence linked to the civilization that built the sundial. There is a third camp that believes my stumble was irrelevant, and the sundial had simply chosen that moment and I was merely proximate. They are all very smart people and they have spent years on this, and I do not dismiss any of them. I just remember the cool of the stone against my palm. Not the cold of something dead. The cool of something that had been waiting, very patiently, for the conversation to resume. There is a side office at the base of the plateau now. My name is on the door. I did not ask for it. The new title is Keeper of the Vel'Dara Site, which is, in practical terms, a senior maintenance and site continuity role, which means I still sweep and I still haul and I still clear the drainage channels when they block, because someone has to and I am still the best at it. The scholars brief me. The delegations come through and I answer their questions when I can and tell them honestly when I cannot. Specialist Orvain became my deputy, which he handles with the particular expression of someone who has been explaining things to Laboris for years and has now accepted that one of them is technically her supervisor. The sundial has not spoken again. I am not certain it needs to. It said what it said, and that was enough. 4 words for 11,000 years of silence, and every one of them weight-bearing. I still bring my thermos. I hold it tilted, because it still leaks. The knee still predicts rain. Some mornings I go up early, before the scholars arrive, and I sweep along the base the way I always did, and the sundial stands in its circle of markers, and the carved script catches the light, and there is between us the silence of something that has already said the important thing and does not feel the need to repeat it. That is enough. That has always been enough. I was not sent here to be recognized. I was sent here to keep the place clean, and somewhere in the 11,000-year gap between those two things, the sundial decided they were the same.